So the first task of our virtual coaching roadmap is to create a vision for the coming year, but not just one overall vision. I want you to make smaller, concrete visions, either for trimesters or quarters or even months, depending on what you prefer. Now, why focus on the why? Why is this the very first thing that I'm having you do on a roadmap when there are so many other tangible, immediate things that you also have on your mind? And here's why. We know that literacy coaching, that instructional coaching in general, is situated within school context and realities that require us as coaches to do multiple things in multiple ways, depending on the time of the year, the teachers we coach, the students in their classroom, and more. Coaching is responsive. And while responsive coaching is a good thing, because it means we're being receptive to what the teachers and students need, my dissertation research results showed that coaching is particularly susceptible to significant shifts and changes over time. And some of those changes and shifts over time actually take us away from coaching, away from what matters most. And so the responsiveness of the position, the shifting of the position, can actually fragment our roles and responsibilities, which will impact the way that we do our jobs, the way that we impact teachers, and how effective we are at actually impacting students. But what we also know is having a clear vision around the coaching role can help make the position less susceptible to those unwanted changes. Schools and districts who have a clearly defined coaching role, and that coaching role is not only defined, but articulated and printed somewhere where we can tangibly see it, those positions are less likely to shift and change in less than positive ways. Those positions are more likely to stay focused on teaching and learning because they have decided what their why is. They know exactly what the position is and how it's going to help teaching and learning in the school. And so I want you to think for a minute about what your vision might be based on the current teachers, the current students, and the current realities you have of your position. Now, the International Literacy Association gives us this great framework that offers levels of thinking in terms of coaching activities. So they're divided by levels of intensity. Level 1 being the most informal level of coaching where we're building relationships. Level 2, where we're getting a little bit more intense and we're starting to analyze practice. And level 3, where things are much more formal. We're actually focused on changing practice and we are knee-deep in the classroom. So take a minute and look at those different levels of activities. Where are you currently performing? Where do you wish you were performing? If you had 100% control of your coaching role, what would you be doing? I want you to write it down. I should have warned you in the beginning that you might need a piece of paper. But I want you to write it down, and I want you to think about what your vision would look like. If you could do exactly what you knew teachers and students needed for the next quarter, what would it be? We could also look at some other research on coaching from other organizations, and I really love to draw on the ISTE standards here because we are working in a pandemic, which means with digital tools and virtual learning and remote teaching. And so I really rely heavily on ISTE standards for both coaches and teachers, as well as students. And I really love the framework that they have around their coaching standards. I mean, look at the language here. We're change agents, we're connected learners, we're collaborators, learning designers, professional learning facilitators. I love the positive spin that it puts on our activities. So if you were looking at this list and the little definitions that were next to it, what is one or two of these roles that would matter most to you right now in your immediate vision? Is it to be a connected learner and to help work on your own learning as a coach? Is it to be a collaborator and really help teachers during this challenging time? Or maybe you're a professional learning facilitator and you're doing a lot of PD right now. Where would you want your efforts to be? Where do your efforts need to be focused? Now, I rely on Elena Aguilar to be my coach, right? So coaches surround themselves with people who push their own learning, and Elena is certainly one that I rely on for my own coaching life. And not too long ago, these questions, which I'm about to show you, ended up in my email from one of her weekly email newsletters, and they've stuck with me ever since. And I've used them with other coaches to help us think about what our positions might look like during this shifting, challenging time. And so we'll come back to these questions at another point in the roadmap. But for now, think about, how might I shift my work for next year? Now, the question said next year, but we're knee deep in this year. So it could be, how might I shift my work right now? Does my coaching have to shift online? Is it my PD delivery? Is it facilitating team meetings, my data analysis? What are the ways that I could shift what I'm doing? And take a minute just to jot down all of those different things that you could do. Right? We can't do them all, but we can jot them down and then decide what is most important. And that's this next step. What might we focus on for our own learning? So as a coach, what do we want to do to get better at? What data do I have to show that's where the coaching position needs to grow? Is it feedback from teachers? Is it student data? Is it my own gut and my own professional reflections that telling me this is where we need to spend our time this quarter? What could it be? And now we're going to choose something. What do we want to commit to? What do we want to hold ourselves accountable to that's within our sphere of control? There are so many things right now that are outside of our control, but we can find little things that we can do. You don't choose, or you don't get to choose who you have to work with, but you can choose the attitude you bring to those sessions. You can't choose the kind of professional development you may be asked to teach, but you can choose the way that you structure those sessions so that there's as much teacher engagement as possible. You might not be able to choose where and when or how your coaching cycles work, but you might be able to choose a little bit of the content or the structure for how you'll meet with particular teachers, right? So where do you want your coaching to be right now? Where does it need to be? What are the possible shifts you might make? And what's one thing you could hold yourself accountable to as a coaching vision? That's where I want you to think. So if we think about virtual literacy coaching, since your vision likely involves digital tools and technology, since you're here in the roadmap, we know that coaching is specialized. And I'm saying literacy coaching because that's what I do, but you may be another type of instructional coach who has specialized knowledge, where we focus on teaching and learning. We're very responsive to students and teachers, and we're always trying to engage in practices that teachers can then turn right back around and use as a model in their own teaching. We also know we are surrounded by, immersed in, and now kind of forced to use digital tools and technology. And so we need, our teachers need, our students need proficiency and fluency with a variety of technology tools. But we need to use those not just as consumers, but as creators as well, who use technology to pose and solve problems creatively and critique and create, analyze, and evaluate to really strengthen learning. And so I see virtual literacy coaching and virtual coaching as being that middle Venn diagram circle. It's coaching through technology and with digital tools so that we can not only transform teacher learning in terms of content, but to really model authentic use of all of these tools so that we're inspiring innovative practices in the classroom too. And here are just a couple of ways that we'll explore how to do that in the roadmap. We'll talk about innovating teacher learning communities, redesigning our professional development. We'll do collaborative lesson planning and coaching cycles. We'll think about curation tools and ways to make information quickly and easily and accurately available to teachers, which includes thinking about launching pads and coaching hubs to showcase what we're doing and to keep everything together so that teachers can easily get to us and the tools and the learning as a model to do the same. So I'm hoping that your brains are turning a bit. What would my coaching vision be for this coming quarter, wherever you happen to be at the time of the year that you're listening to this? What would your content focus be in terms of ILA's level of activities? What might your super awesome title from the ISTE standards be? And what are some of the ways that you see your position shifting and changing because of technology? What's one thing you can control? One thing you could create a coaching vision around? And now here's your task. I want you to create, based on all the things I've just talked about, based on the notes that you've taken, the things that are rolling around in your mind, I want you to create a 6-word vision. Now, the 6-word story is something that's been around for a while. It's a really creative way to think big, but write small. And so there's things like 6-word stories and 6-word memoirs, and people share them using the 6-word story hashtag online. I actually highly recommend that you Google this later so that you can get in on some of that 6-word fun. But for now, I want you to take your big ideas of coaching and I want you to make them tangible. Okay, I want you to create a 6-word vision to guide your work just for the next quarter. Now, here are a few. Read, write, teach, coach, lead, repeat. Right? For someone who's really prioritizing reading and writing and growing as a coach. I love this next one. We can do hard things virtually, which means this coach is going to have her work focused on virtual tools. Now, we popped one in there for fun. Stay alive until fall break. Need a little humor to the situation. And then the last one is focus on building learning communities. Rebuild one Zoom at a time. So the reason I'm having you do this in a 6-word vision is because I want you to think about it for a bit. It's really easy to just jot notes of what your vision might be and have this really big page of notes that doesn't actually give you a concrete place to begin. But narrowing down your vision to just a 6-word statement, a 6-word coaching vision, that requires you to focus on what matters most and to really keep it focused. Because if we make everything a priority, then nothing becomes a priority. So your task here is to think of a 6-word vision that could guide either your next trimester, your next quarter, or maybe just even your next month as you get going within the virtual coaching roadmap. But I want you to make it tangible. Now, I'm not about busy work, so I'm never going to ask you to do something just because, something that's not going to serve you well. But I do want you to make your vision tangible somehow. So I do have 2 creative ways right here. Right? So another one of my favorites is, as a coach, not a troublemaker, I'm an advocate. I'm going to stick up for my teachers and I'm going to be there for whatever they need over this coming month. Now, you could go to Canva, which is what I did to create these 2 graphics here. I just scrolled through their social media posts. I found an image I liked and I simply replaced the text. On one side, you see on the left, there's an image to go along, and on the right, it's just playing around with the lettering to be some sort of word statement instead. Now, do you have to go to Canva right now? Of course not. You could go to Google Slides, you could do a word cloud, or you could just get a sticky note out and write those 6 words on a sticky note and stick it somewhere you're going to remember to see it. That's the key in making it tangible. If you put it on a sticky note, I want it somewhere near your computer every day. If you jot it down in a notebook, I don't want that notebook closed. I want you to open it up, take out the notebook, and pin it to your bulletin board. If you're creating something on Canva, I want you to save it as your desktop screensaver, or I want you to put it as an icon on your computer where you'll see it often, or print it out and just tape it right to the wall wherever your workspace happens to be. The key is that taking that 6-word coaching vision and making it tangible is what's going to remind you what matters most, because there's going to be so many things competing for your attention. And you have to have a tunnel vision on what matters most to you and your teachers. What matters most as you go through this roadmap. What matters most as you proceed through the next couple of weeks, and no matter what position you're in. So that's your job right now. Think of your 6-word story. Make it tangible somehow, from a sticky note to a fun Canva, and then post it somewhere, in person or digital, where you're going to see it every day. Now you'll need to do this before going on to the next step of the roadmap, because that vision is going to be critical for what we're going to do next to get ready to put that vision into reality.